talk to any local or tourist on the island, and they will tell you that the place to be on Friday night is the Oistins fish fry. Now most people come here for the fried fish, which they serve on the spot, but it's also worth coming for the party and the atmosphere. No, this isn't just a Friday night thing. This is something that happens here pretty much almost every night, but most people just flock here on Friday because that's when the biggest party and best atmosphere is.
And then we put it in this oil and put it on the grill. It has a very nice taste. Yes, it tastes nice, yeah.
You know, are there like, what kind of animal does it taste similar to?
No, it's not flipper. It's dolphin, not flipper.
Yeah, it's a dolphin, but
it's not flipper. It's a fish.
Oh, it's a dolphin fish. Oh, I thought it was the mammal. Yeah, we just ordered some dolphin and marlin. It's a dolphin fish, not the dolphin mammal. I thought it was the mammal, but we'll see what it tastes like. It's not too bad. It's only 30 Barbados dollars for a whole plate. That's about 15 US, so it's pretty cheap. You can't get a meal like that cheap in most places in the US. This is a great place to come. Yeah, our food finally arrived. I have some marlin and dolphin fish. The marlin's a little dry, but the dolphin fish is pretty delicious. Good. And right next to us we have some friendly Londoners from Canada who joined us for dinner.
Contradiction in terms, isn't it? Friendly Londoners from Canada.
Yeah, I mean,
not sure where we're from.
Yeah, we met one earlier who wasn't so friendly, but you guys are. Here, you will notice that there's a lot of locals here as well. Although in recent years this event has become sort of a tourist attraction, it was never designed specifically for tourists, but for locals to come enjoy their own culture and have some fun after a hard week of work. And in fact, I read that if you come here on certain nights, you will see only locals. Now, people already start showing up here around 6, but the party really kicks off around 8 o'clock, which is about right now, and it goes well into the night. People basically leave whenever they can go up to past midnight and all the way into the morning, as our driver explained earlier. This is definitely the place to be on Friday night if you want to experience some true Bajan culture. Up this event a little bit to cater a bit more towards tourists, and this is clearly present in the music because on one side you can hear traditional Caribbean reggae, calypso, or steel reggae is. We're in the island's historic Garrison Savannah, and it was built sometime around 1780, but most of these buildings date from 1789 onward. The garrison was actually the headquarters for the island's imperial forces up until 1906, and throughout the years it has been expanded. And today some of the buildings are museums that you can actually explore, but there are also some buildings which belong to the military. This beautiful building you see behind me is the main guard, and it was built in 1804. Horse racing is a huge part of Bajan culture, and in fact the Garrison Savannah is most famous for its giant racetrack, which holds horse races every other Saturday, with 2 big races taking place twice a year. And the racetrack is also used for performances during the Crop Over Festival in August. Once a week from June to March, visitors to the garrison are treated to a beautiful ceremony known as the changing of the Sentry. A relatively new attraction, the ceremony has been held in front of the historic main guard since December 2011 and is a reenactment of a ceremony that took place on the island in the 1700s. At approximately 12 o'clock noon, the ringing of the tower bell echoes across the garrison, signaling the start of the ceremony, at which point dozens of retired Bajan soldiers in colonial attire march into the historic garrison, as they did 300 years ago, and for 15 minutes take spectators back in time with a spectacular performance. Barbados is the only island in the Caribbean that didn't change hands during colonial times. The English first settled here in 1627, but then when England joined the British Empire in 1707, the island became a British colony, which it remained up until its independence in 1966. And after that, the island decided to keep its historic ties with Britain by accepting the status of a British Commonwealth, which it still remains today. And even today, the British culture is strongly present all around the island, earning it the nickname Little England. Although it was the English who officially settled the island in 1627, before that there were several different Indian groups here, including the Amerindians, Arawaks, and Caribs, and the Spanish and Portuguese were also on the island for a short period of time before the English, and some of that history is showcased behind me in the Barbados National Museum. Housed in a former 19th century British military prison, The museum showcases the island's entire history, culture, and ecosystem. The museum's collection includes everything from local wildlife and coral to Amerindian artifacts, British colonial and military artifacts, replicas of colonial-era rooms, children's toys, old wagons, and even Rihanna's umbrella. The museum even showcases the island's African roots. Unfortunately, filming and photography are not permitted inside the museum, so you won't be seeing them in this video. But similar artifacts can be found in other museums, where filming and photography is permitted. However, if you want to see the artifacts in this museum, you'll have to come to Barbados. George Washington only visited one other country during his entire lifetime, and that country was Barbados. He came here for 2 months in 1751 when he was just 19 years old with his half-brother Lawrence, and this is the house they stayed in, and the reason they came here was because he wanted to find a cure for his brother's tuberculosis, and unfortunately they never did find that cure because his brother actually ended up dying at Mount Vernon the following year. And to make things worse, Washington himself contracted smallpox during their trip to Barbados, but luckily there was a cure for that, and he later went on to become general and America's first president. Originally built in 1750 to house French prisoners, the building became the temporary home of the Washington brothers the following year. Over the centuries, a few additions have been made to the house, and in 2007 it was restored by the Barbados National Trust. Today, this beautifully restored home offers visitors a nice glimpse into the life of the Washington brothers, as well as unique colonial-era customs. Yeah, this was George's bedroom.
This is George's bedroom.
That's what people see on the movie.
Yeah, it's pretty, but at the same time, has a useful purpose.
That's a Lawrence's room.
Two meaning. When you take this, for instance, this is probably just a table, linen, and all such like. I know, also it's just taking the things off, but take off all of it. Here's a big kitchen.
Yeah, this right here is the kitchen.
In the early days, the village table kitchen. In the early days, they didn't have a fridge.
These are all artifacts that were actually unearthed in this gully behind the house by archaeologists. It's called the dump because people used to throw stuff out of the house into the gully, and this is some of the stuff that they threw out, and it was actually unearthed by archaeologists, and they put it here on display. That beautiful building over there is the historic St. Anne's Fort. It was built in 1705 and is named after Her Majesty Queen Anne. Now in 2004 they actually opened a giant museum in here. It's a giant armory which displays some rare cannons, but we just talked to a soldier and he said the only way to visit is through an organized tour as it's part of a military base. So I don't know if we'll be going inside or not, but still beautiful building to see from the outside. We're on the grounds of the Hilton Hotel, and behind me is the Needham's Point Lighthouse. It's 43 feet tall and it was built in 1855. It's the second oldest lighthouse in Barbados. This is nice. This is Port Charles, and is the largest fort on Barbados. It was built in the year 1650, and it was originally called Needham's Fort after Needham's Point, but in 1660 they changed the name to Charles Fort after King Charles II. There's not a whole lot left of the original fort because they sort of built the hotel grounds into it, but there's still enough left that you can see what it looks like.
What kind of butterfly they put in?
Oh my gosh, the phantom thing. Look, look at that.
This is pretty cool. So even tourists staying in 5-star resorts can experience a bit of nature and history. Next we're going to be visiting Bridgetown, the island's capital and largest city. Now most tourists would probably just hop on the bus or cab, but since it's only about a mile from the garrison, we're just going to walk. Right over there we have some traditional Barbadian chattel houses. This is the Roundhouse, and it's the former home of renowned Bajan poet and writer Edward Kamel Bradley. Behind me is the St. Patrick's Church. It was built in 1848. It was actually destroyed in a fire in 1897, and the suspects were actually arsonists from the Protestant church who opposed the Catholic Church. And the church was rebuilt around 1899. Now from the outside it doesn't look like much, but the inside is quite spectacular.